Welcome to Amplifying Your Wellness with TLC, a place where we discuss your self-care and wellness through our guest stories, information, and tips on how to live healthier and happier lives. We are Twin Life Coaching and Business Services with your host, myself, Tara Lehman, and my business partner and sister, of course, Barb Ships. We care about increasing awareness around self-care and mental health through this podcast, coaching, consulting, and more. To find out more about all of our services and our community, please visit us at twinlifecoaching.ca. As a reminder, this podcast is for sharing of stories and information only and is not intended to be or replace any medical advice you are seeking or have received. So today we're welcoming Holly Copeland, who specializes in the belief that personal growth and healing come through rewilding from within. Welcome to the show, Holly.
Thanks. I really appreciate the invitation here, Barb and Tara. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course, we have a great topic with you today, too.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your background in self-care or mental health, or however that is for you.
Yeah, sure. I like to start the background by just saying that for many people with the journey, it came through their own personal experience. And, my background now is about 6 years of working and teaching and studying meditation and personal transcendence and helping people on that spiritual path to get out of the messy thing that is our minds. Whether it's anxiety or stress or just a general feeling of I'm not enough or sadness, all of those different, very common human experiences. Through my own personal journey and experiences with, I guess, my own journey of wanting to what I call rewire my brain, and how well that worked and how much it shifted for me and my desire to help others make that same shift, really.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So in terms of, you just mentioned the meditation, but in terms of meditation specifically, why is that so important to you? Why do you feel the need to support others with that?
Well, because what I really discovered, so I used to be, I just want to set a little bit of the context here, is I used to actually be a conservation scientist or an ecologist for the Nature Conservancy.
Oh, wow.
So I was on a completely different trajectory for my life. I was in a space. I was working on research projects. I was studying animal movements. I was helping direct where the Nature Conservancy should spend their money. And I came to a point in my life where I felt like what I was doing, there sort of was a confluence of a few things, but I'll just say one, I felt like even though I'd come to a place where I checked all the boxes of I had a nice home and I had what should by any rights be the, most amazing job ever and healthy children. There was still felt like there was really something missing. And I really felt like I should be happier.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. I've done all the things society said I should do and I'm still not happy. Can anybody relate to that?
Of course. I'm sure a lot of people can.
Right. And so, that I had been a spiritual person my whole life in the sense that, I'm my mother's Christian, my father's Jewish. I had kind of religion bouncing through my life, but nothing super, super strong. But I had encountered spirituality in my teens and read Rumi and been interested in the spiritual path. And so I say that to say that I think these things we can kind of be toying with these ideas and what this means throughout our lives. I would say that I was always felt like there was something of a God or something bigger than me and my work in my life. But I didn't necessarily feel like I had a personal relationship to that or felt like that actually solved my immediate crisis of who I am and what's going on here and why don't I feel happy. And so I went on a quest to really, I would say, solve that problem. And
Mhm.
I felt like at the time, it was like two things kind of collided. One of like, okay, who am I and what's really going on? And why aren't I really happy? And this thing called meditation, people, I've tried it when I was 14. And I kind of gave up because it felt like I was sitting staring at a candle. I literally remember being 14 and like setting up a candle in my room and being like, okay, I'm going to try this meditation thing.
Right.
And I did that for a couple times and it didn't really seem to do anything. And I was an avid runner and I just sort of resolved myself to, okay, being out in nature and running, this is my meditation time.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that more or less worked for a lot of my life until I got to this point where I really felt like there was something deeper I was missing.
Mhm.
And a friend of mine had gone to a meditation retreat center in Colorado, and that seemed as good a place to start as any. It was like, okay, these people, I think they know what they're doing. And so maybe I should go do this weekend retreat, And I did that. And one, my mind was blown because like the idea of sitting for 8 hours trying to meditate was like actually really, really hard.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
Right. And I'll tell you a funny story. So I get to the end of this 8-hour meditation where my mind is blown. I'm like, this is really, really hard. And then there's this like, we go to have these breakout sessions. And one of the women who was, a support teacher leading it, we are like, we go into this room and do a little debrief. And there's like 8 of us. And there's this man sitting next, this, I would say boy, he was like mid-20s. And he's like this cheerful young man. And I'm like, oh, he's there to support too. It was like, oh, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm actually here doing a meditation retreat all month. And I'm like,
Oh,
oh,
wow.
really? All month? Well, like, what does that mean? I'm like, are you actually meditating every day all month? He said, yeah. I'm like, you
Wow.
mean for like 8 hours? He's like, yeah. I'm just like,
That's dedication.
right. And my mind was just,
Wow.
wow, what would that really be like? After I've had this, I couldn't barely get through one day
Mhm.
to do this for 8 hours for 30 days. So I just tell that as a funny anecdote to like coming into this world, like really not understanding what it's like to access real silence and peace and be able to sustain that.
Mhm.
But I went on after that weekend to start to do like 30-minute meditations,
Mhm.
each morning, and really come to actually have my own experience of quieting my mind, but then ultimately actually seeing that my sense that meditation is about quieting your mind, it really was like I actually was sent down the deep spiritual rabbit hole of that
Mhm.
existential questions of who we are and what's happening here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so and that journey so profoundly changed my life and so shifted everything about who my experience, not just meditating, but off the cushion, that I came to want to help others to access
That's amazing.
that space of peace and the essential knowing that we are whole and complete, and that really this essential knowing that peace is accessible always. Like it's actually, I mean, the Tibetan teachings are that our essential nature is peace and it's accessible to anyone at any time. And that's actually my passion now, is in part. And when I say like to rewild within, what I really mean is like wild nature is peaceful and calm and
Mhm.
um, not fighting what is,
Right.
not in conflict with itself. So to me, this rewilding is like reclaiming our essential peaceful nature and joyful nature.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like you had quite the personal journey there.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
and I and I'm gonna say 30 minutes is probably more for me than 30 days. I can't even imagine that. That's just, I mean, good for him if that works for him,
Right.
but
Right.
3 minutes to start, moving up to 30, I can do, but
Yeah.
But what
Yeah.
an amazing story. I
Yeah.
want to turn this a little bit around to something that you had noted prior to the podcast altogether, which was how we can enhance meditation with the help of neuroscience.
Mhm.
And I wonder if you can help explain that to our audience a little bit, what you mean by that and what that might look like.
Sure. Um, so, and this area comes because I have kind of a scientist brain and I came from the science realm. One of the first things I got really interested in was um, understanding our brain waves and how our brain waves, um, what state we're in when we're in a busy mind state, and how we can shift out of that busy mind state into a more peaceful state. And this is where neuroscience can be really helpful because, for example, we can see that, or we know now that when we're in a busy mind state, that's a beta brainwave state where those brainwaves are more active, and that's very measurable. And that we're in an alpha or theta state, those are the more meditative states. And as we slow those brain waves down, we drop into like deeper subconscious, even entering like delta states. So one, it's important to just set up the understanding, I think, for everyone to just know that these are very measurable. And through the help that, so neuroscience for me takes some of the black box aspect of meditation. I know for myself, when I started this journey, I had a sense of like, how do I know if I'm doing it right? For example, like, what does even that feel like?
Yeah, that's a good question. You would wonder that if you had never done
Right?
it before.
If
Yeah.
you never done it before, you have no benchmark. You have no
Yeah.
like way to even know what it feels like. And a few different things I'll point out here just to kind of, so one thing I learned was that there's, there, if you're more on the techie side, there is technology that can help you with this. I love a piece of technology called the Muse headband. And this headband, you put it on and it actually monitors your brain waves in real time.
Wow.
Oh, neat.
And if your brain is more busy, you hear like loud rain. And then as you quiet your mind, the rain actually quiets till it's like a gentle patter. And then if you're really quiet, you actually hear these little birds chirping in the background.
How interesting.
It is such a beautiful, like for me, when I first found this technology and started to use it, it was so helpful. It was like training wheels for meditation.
Yeah.
I get feedback
Wow.
on if I'm doing this right. So that's like a very tangible way that I think we can, that neuroscience can help, help people with the basics of meditation. Another one is something called binaural beats. And these are sounds, and you can find these on various platforms, whether it's YouTube, if you Google binaural beats, or like the meditation app Insight Timer, where I'm a teacher and I have recordings. There are binaural beat patterns that you can find. And I have a playlist with some of my favorites. And what these do is play different brainwave, different frequencies in one ear and the other. So I'll give you an example. So for example, if you play 90 hertz in the left ear and you play 100 hertz in the right ear, the difference of 10 hertz, your brain will actually correct for that difference, and it will put you in an alpha state, which is 10 hertz, because it will do this correction of the difference. So it will assist the brain in moving to an alpha or a theta state, depending on, what kind of binaural beat it is.
Incredible.
Yeah. So there's another way where we can use, this was these two things I just mentioned were some tools that I used in the beginning when I wanted to meditate and I wanted some help. I started to work with these tools to like training aids to help calm.
Yeah. I love that. I love that it's out there, that
idea.
technology can come into these ancient things like meditation. I love it.
Right. And then I'll mention a third one that is non-technology related. So this incredible researcher, his name is Les Fermi, and he wrote a book called The Open Focus Brain, and I highly recommend it. But in it, he teaches that he hooked himself up to an EEG that would measure his brain waves. And he wanted to be in this, this alpha state, because he knew if I move to an alpha state, then my brain will be quieter and I'll be more meditative. And he did a lot of different things, tried many, many different techniques to get his brain into an alpha state. And incredibly, there was a very simple technique that he mentions in the book that I'll mention right now that got him into an alpha state. So if you guys all want to practice with me for just like a minute.
Sure. Yeah.
I will just invite you all, everybody listening, to try this. I just say, don't, if you're driving, don't do this, because I'm going to
be safe.
Yeah, be safe.
Yeah.
But if you're in a place where you can do this, just go ahead and close your eyes gently with me and just feel and imagine the space between your ears. And then just feel and imagine the space between your shoulders. And then just feel and imagine the space between your elbows. And then just feel and imagine the space between your hips. And now just feel and imagine the space in the room you're in. And I'll just check in with you both. Do either of you, do you notice a shift in your brainwave, do you notice a shift when you bring your brain into this, when you do this exercise?
Just
Calming.
more awareness. Yeah.
Yeah.
I find more awareness of what's going on, the
Right.
noises in the room.
Yeah, so it moves your brain into more of an aware state, like a receptive, awake state, which is alpha. And then I think one of you said calmness.
The calmness of just thinking of the space rather than thinking of the clutter.
Right. And so this very simple exercise of being aware of space, and you can pick whether it's space in your room. I chose many different things to show you that it doesn't really matter. It's the point is you focus on the space between two things or just the space in the room. And he found that when he did this, his brain shifted immediately into an alpha brainwave state.
Wow. Very, very interesting.
Another very simple science, the data-driven approach to shift your brain out of a busy brainwave state into an open alert state.
Yeah, the one thing I
do that at work.
Oh, sorry, Tara. I was going to say the one thing I noticed the loudest was my clock ticking, which I wasn't even paying attention to before. I didn't even notice it was there.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that.
That was a great little exercise. So when we put ourselves into these different states, what are the benefits?
Yeah.
So
great question. So this actually, it's a beautiful entry into the kind of bigger picture of what's happening. So one, what we're doing is we're shifting out of a busy mind state into an alpha state. But what we also do is the default mode network, this region of the brain, is very active. Neuroscientists studying meditation have found that when we're in a kind of busy wandering mind, our default mode network region of the brain is very active. And when we quiet the mind into this more open receptive state, that region of the brain quiets. And so that we move into a more meditative state, which is really where we move from this. What you notice is that actually when we're when we're caught in with the attentional system is really flipping from like I'm looking here and then I'm looking there and I'm like being bombarded all the time. We're not resting in a more receptive space. So really what meditation is about is it's training us to move from being caught in all the weather of the mind into more of the open, awake sky that is always clear, actually. So
that's a good image.
Right? This is actually like and there are deeper levels of the spiritual path, and meditation actually has deeper levels, but the first move is really to move out of the weather and into the sky. And so that's what we're really ultimately training, helping people train to do.
Yeah, because I find like our minds are always busy, right? It's just our environment is not, some people say when they go on vacation and they sit on a beach for a week and they're able to finally relax. It's that same idea, I think, and you're getting away from the busy of everyday life. But what you're saying is we should be doing it every day, not just that once a year, twice a year, or on the weekend, right?
Right. Yes. And and I love that you bring that up, because that was one of the recognitions that I had, was that my mind was constantly sort of in this like overactive state all the time. Recall, I'm like a scientist. I'm like constantly researching and looking at papers. And what I realized was like, there was no space I'd created to just be able to rest in my life and respond to what's coming up, but to, it's moving from reacting in life to resting in peace and then responding from a space of peace, which is really, I would think, a key goal of meditation is teaching us how to return to that essential nature of peace. And we don't need to go on vacation to have it, but it's actually,
but we enjoy vacation.
Right. Of course. Yeah. But we learn
to have it every day.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's actually what, that's really what mental health is that I'm grounded and at peace with who I am and with my life. And as weather comes up, I have a good, I know how to respond. I know what to do with the weather that comes up, and I'm not a prisoner to the weather that comes up.
I like the way you phrase that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
Well, I was going to say another analogy that comes to mind is one that I was working with I have a 20-year-old daughter. Well, I have two 20-year-old daughters, actually. As I said, I have twins myself. And she's just learning how to work with her mind, and she's a busy college student and has a lot going on. And, we were, to be honest, she was like really struggling with a lot of, challenging thoughts that were coming up. And I told her this, I shared this analogy with her, and I'm going to share it now because she actually told me, we had dinner on Sunday, and she said, "Mom, I really put into practice what you shared, and it's been helping me so much." So
excellent.
I feel like inspired to share it now, that maybe will help somebody listening. So the analogy is this. So it's as though our mind is like a ship, and there's a lot of drunken sailors, and they're having a party on this boat.
Right.
They're having a party on this boat, and they're drunken sailors. The boat is going, this way and that, and it's totally lost at sea. Basically, there's no clear direction. And there's a captain, and she or he is asleep. When this is happening, he or she is asleep in the boat, underneath. And this captain, the job of meditation is really to bring the captain back up and, take control of this ship. And that process of meditation is, in my mind, the resurrection of the captain. To come back up and see that we are, the weather, sailors that are drunk here to form a relationship, to recognize that you are not those sailors. You are not your thoughts. Of course, you're the one that is aware, and to recognize that you, awareness, are actually totally at peace and totally well. And that we can start to see, we can recognize that those thoughts are here and say like, okay, thank you very much. I see you. I acknowledge you. And I'm choosing to not, I don't need to listen to them. I can absolutely make a different choice in my life. I'm not a prisoner of those thoughts. But when those drunken sailors have taken over and we're asleep, it's like we're a prisoner, you know, really, and the ship has no direction. And so, and in order to do that, in order to recognize that, you really need to recognize that you, awareness, this essence of your being that is here listening now, and is aware that those thoughts are here, but we don't need to believe them. We actually can, we have ultimate choice to believe something else, to take your life somewhere else. You know, it's that classic, don't believe everything you think or feel, not take possession of them. Yeah.
So I had a question I was going to ask, but I'm going to switch it out. And I'm wondering, can you give our audience, if they're brand new to meditation and, 30 minutes, doing these imaging things seem a little scary.
Yeah.
Where do they start? Where can, really simple, don't spend any money, can they start on the meditation journey?
That's a great question. So for myself, I think that the best place to start is with a guided meditation, because, trying as one option, I'll give two options here, but that's one option, because there's a lot of wisdom in, out there, and to be guided. I certainly, after I did this, this story that I told, I actually ended up working with some teachers and studied meditation with them, and mostly did guided meditation for a very long time. Okay. So I think guided meditations are a great place to start. There's an app that's free called Insight Timer. I'm a teacher there, and you can look me up there. And I've got like 30 free guided meditations, varying from like 5 minutes to 30 minutes to an hour. So you can pick your length. But, to not try to think that you need to just go, as I did, and try to sit in front of a candle and wonder if you're doing it right. I think, there's a lot of beautiful guidance that, and there's many great teachers on there in addition to that.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you.
If there was one key takeaway that you would want somebody that maybe you're doing this with, guiding, or even our audience, what would it be?
Thank you for that beautiful question. That working with, this practice that we call meditation, which can seem kind of scary or difficult to access. And I actually feel like right now we're in a time of changing what our Western mindset about what meditation is. And, we have a lot of, we've kind of adopted or inherited, from like mindfulness-based stress reduction. And there's been some beautiful kind of mindfulness, like people think of this meditation as mindfulness, and but even that can seem a little daunting. I know in my own life, like I tried mindfulness and I was like, oh, damn, I'm not being mindful. Oh, damn, there was like almost felt like I was like failing at the thing because I couldn't be mindful. I don't know if anybody else feels that way. Like, oh, I'm not present. But I actually think that we're like the practices that I teach, which are really more modern, rooted in modern non-dualism and direct awakening, are meant to bring people to a much quicker understanding of who you are in relationship to your thoughts. And I say that because I want to just broaden people's concept of what meditation is, and to get back to the answer of your question, and to say this process is really about meditation in this context is really about awakening to the truth of who you are.
Love that.
Yeah.
And I think
Love
there
that.
can be no more important journey for a human being than your essential relationship to self and who you are. And that's for everyone.
What a great way to sum up our conversation about meditation today. Thank you so much. So, if our listeners wanted to learn more about what you do or find you online so they can learn more about meditation and the other things that you do, how can they find you?
Yeah, thank you. You can go to my website, hollycopeland.co, co,
Okay.
and find links to the Insight Timer channel. I'm also published on Substack, and then I see one-on-one clients. So you can access all of that through my website.
Thank you so much again for being on the show. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, thank you both so much for having me.
Thank you, of course, to all of our listeners for joining us today. We hope you were able to take away some great key points that can help you on your self-care journeys. If you are looking for some self-reflection or development, or maybe you want to just achieve those goals, reach out to us to see how coaching can help you. To learn more about all of our services, please visit us at twinlifecoaching.ca. Until next time, remember, you've got this.